This video is brought to you by our own Meta. Thank you so much for donating. If you want to support Brackeys yourself, you can go to patreon.com/Brackeys.
Thanks for tuning in at Brackeys.
Hello everyone and welcome to this video on creating a tower defense game in Unity. Today we'll be working on the UI. I have some really exciting stuff that I want to show and also some stuff that I really want to try out. So we'll begin by editing the hover color for our nodes to reflect whether or not we have enough money to actually buy the turret. We'll also be adding a money counter, which shows the current amount of money that we have, along with a price for each turret. And we'll also show the countdown timer in a bit different way that will look a lot cooler. And finally, we'll be adding some built turret particle effect. So whenever we build a turret, we want to have some kind of cool effect in there to show that something awesome has just happened. So that is the plan for today. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as you can see, I've created a list over the different things I want to do today. And I want to begin by editing the hover color for our nodes. So let's find our node script under scripts and then node and double click that to open it up in Visual Studio. Then scroll down to where we say on mouse enter, and you can see here that we edit the material color by going rend.material.color and setting it equal to hover color. All we really want to do here is create an if statement that checks whether or not our current amount of money is greater than or equal to the cost of the turret that we have selected. And in case it's not, we don't want to set it equal to hover color, we want to set it equal to some alarming color, say just a red color, indicating that we need to get more money before we can build there. So what I really want to do is I want to add this functionality into our build manager, because our build manager is the one who takes care of what we want to build next and therefore knows the cost of that turret. So let's find our build manager again under scripts and open that up as well. And you can see here that we've already created a property called can build. Let's just create another property called has money. And it's simply a Boolean check here. So let's just duplicate that and let's rename this to has money. And instead of returning whether or not we have something to build, let's return whether or not player stats dot money is greater than or equal to the turret to build's cost. There we go. So if we don't have enough money, this is going to return false. And if we do have enough money or more money, it's going to return true. So what we can do is simply use this inside of our node. So we can go if, and then we can say build manager dot has money. Then we want to set rend.material.color equal to hover color. And in case it has not, so let's create an else statement here. Then we can say rend.material.color equals to say color.red, or we can create another variable for this. So not enough money color, for example, or you can name it whatever you want. Let's go up here and actually create this variable. So public color, and we'll just call this the not enough money color. Then what we can do is we can head inside of Unity, we can find a node prefab here, and we can edit this color. So let's make sure to set the alpha all the way up and set it to some kind of red color. Now you should see that if we hit play and place a few turrets, you can see it's normal now until we don't have any more money, and then it turns red, indicating that we can't build there anymore. So that is all I wanted to do with the hover over color, and you can definitely do more with that if you want to. So we can scratch that off the list. Next up is our countdown plus money counter. So the countdown is up here, but I don't think it looks very good. And also we don't have any way to display our current amount of money. So what I really wanted to do is first off, go ahead and find a new font on the web. So let's go here, open up our browser, and let's go Google Fonts. And what I'm going to be using here is the one called Roboto. It's a very used font. I believe it's developed by Google actually. And if we select this font, you can see it says family selected, and then you could go here and press the download button, which is going to download a zip file containing all of the different things that we want. You can see there's a black italic, bold, and so on and so far and so on. And then we simply extract all of this. So we extract it into a folder, and then you can select all of the fonts. You don't need to include the license. And then we can go into Unity here and create a new folder called fonts. And then we can just click and drag all of these fonts in there. And you can of course find your own fonts if you don't want to use these. You can also jump on the asset store. There are some free ones and some paid ones as always. Yeah, it's really as easy as that, but Unity should definitely accept most TTF files. So if you find a font with that format, you can just include it. Of course, make sure that it's not copyrighted in some way. So what we can then do is we can simply use this inside of the editor now. And the idea that I had is instead of just overlaying the UI like this when it comes to displaying text, let's have the text be part of the scene. So let's have the numbers be shown down here at the bottom of our map, and we can also have things on the side and on the top if we want to. And then we can, as we pan the camera around and zoom in and stuff, the text will follow those transforms. So I think that would look pretty cool with this kind of minimalistic square setup. So let's find our canvas here and just disable our wave countdown timer for now so that it won't get in the way. Let's then create a new canvas by going UI and then canvas. And let's change the render mode here from screen space overlay to world space. What we can then do is we can play around with this a bit, because if you go into 2D mode and focus on this, it's freaking huge. So we need to definitely scale this down. So let's do a scale of 0.05, 0.05, and 0.05. That's definitely better. Let's then center the X and Y, so 0, 0, 0. There we go. And we can go out of 2D mode now. Let's then rotate it 90 degrees on the X. So find the rotation here and go 90 on the X. And we can then move it down here so that we will have it right at the bottom of our map and move it over. And then we can switch to use the 2D tools here up, the rectangle tool. And we can then scale it out here so it fits the entire bottom of our map. Something like that looks pretty nice. And we can maybe scale it up here so that we don't go too far off the screen. And then we can add some text elements to this. So we can right click here, go UI and then text. And you can see that there is definitely some text here, but it's very small and very gray. So let's just first off make the area here larger. Actually, let's just make it fit the entirety of our canvas by I simply went to stretch there, hold down Alt and press in the bottom right corner there. And then we can bump up the font size, and you can see now that our text appears. Let's make the color completely white, and let's also go to font, and that opens up the font window, and I want to go Roboto Thin. I think that looks super cool. And then we can change this to say a $sign. That's a euro. So $sign and then some amount of money here. So we'll have, let's say, $356 here. And I think that looks pretty neat already. I want the font size to be around these 125, say. You can definitely make it bigger, actually. Let's say 150. I actually like that better. So I think that looks pretty nice, and you can of course play around with that more than I do here. And you can also maybe make it blend in with the environment a bit better here. So maybe choose a color that isn't quite as white. But I actually think I like it completely white. And then what we can do is we can add a shadow to this. So just go add component, search for shadow, and we can add this with an effect distance of 5 and -5. And then we can maybe bump down the opacity on this just a bit. So that will just make it blend a bit nicer. And what you will notice now, because our canvas is a world canvas, is if we go in here and hit play now and zoom in, you can see that it follows the transform of our camera. And that makes it look super cool and very organic and part of the map. So I really like that effect. Excuse me. Cool. So we can now rename this to our money, and we can duplicate it. And what I'll do is I'll snap this to the right corner here, and we can have this be our time. So you could definitely write time here, or wave if you want to do that. I'm just going to put in some number here, which is just going to be 19.25, for example, to indicate our current amount of seconds until the next wave. But you can really style this in any way that you want to. Cool. So we can now rename this as well and call this our timer, or our wave countdown timer if you want to be very specific. So what we can do now is we can hook these two up to a script. So first off, if we find our canvas here, wave countdown timer, and delete that, and then select our game master and go to wave spawner, you can see that we have a wave countdown text. And all we want to do is just drag our new timer object into that, and that should actually update that for us. But I don't think it's formatted very well. And by the way, just ignore the warnings down here. It's just a Unity annoying bug. It's nothing to worry about at all. So let's double click on the wave spawner now, and let's format this text a bit better. Also, let's set the time between waves to something more, say 20. So let's find our update method here, and you can see this is where we set wave countdown.text. And what I want to do is, first off, I want to do something that I should have done earlier, which is clamping this value. So I want to set countdown equal to math.clamp between, and I want to clamp countdown between 0 and math.infinity, just to make sure that no matter what, countdown will not be less than 0 and therefore a negative number and therefore show in some weird way. And then when it comes to formatting this, I actually want some decimal places. So we're going to go string dot format, and we are going to create a string here with the format, and we do this by going 0, indicating that the first variable that we put right after this one, which is going to be comma our countdown, so 0 here represents our countdown, we want to display that with the format of 0.00. Actually, I want to do 0.00. So you will see what that does in a second, and we can close that off with the curly brackets. And remember to put a, what is this? A parentheses, closing parentheses in there as well. So let's save the wave spawner now, and let's hit play, and you should see that this is formatted in a very cool way where it gets this very hectic, dramatic effect where it counts down super quickly. I really like that. So that is now part of our map, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. So let's make sure to do the same with our money. And we could, of course, add some kind of update method inside of our player stats, or we could do it on the money itself. And I'm just going to do it on the money itself. So let's just do money UI, add a new component here, which is going to be C#. And all we need to do here is go into the update method, and we then want a reference to the text object here, and we can just either use get component or just reference it, which we are going to do. So let's make sure to import Unity Engine.ui whenever we do anything with the UI. Let's make a public text variable with our money text. And then all we need to do is set money text.text equal to player stats.money. And we can do a toString on that, and also make sure to put a $sign in front of that to make it look cool and make it very clear that this is our money. So let's now hit play on this. And you might say, do we really need to update this every frame? No, we definitely do not, but I think really it doesn't matter because we're only changing one text variable, and also it's kind of nice that the money updates immediately after we change or after we kill an enemy or whatever, or say spawn in a turret. So now we have the money text, and of course we need to reference that as well. So let's just drag it in there. Notice I dragged in the game object. You can also drag in the text component directly. And now we hit play, and we should be error free, except for those two annoying ones. And you can see it says 400 here, and if we now spend some money, it's going to subtract from that. So that's perfect and totally working. Cool. So let's see what we have on the program next. So that was the countdown and money counter. Then we have a turret cost. And this is actually going to be a fairly long video. I hadn't expected that, but I guess that's fine. Some things that I also want to add is some kind of notification or toaster or toast or whatever, some way of displaying messages for the user, say when you're unable to build or when a new wave has spawned. So we'll definitely do something with that. Yeah, cool. So let's continue to the next thing, which is turret cost. So let's delete this from the list and add that. And that is as easy as just adding a little bit of UI inside of our shop here. So let's find our standard turret item. And let's just delete the text here. And instead, let's go in and go UI, and then let's go panel. There we go. Focusing on this, switch to 2D mode. Let's now scale this panel down quite a bit. Something like that. Looks fine. And let's drag this up just a bit, position it where we want it. I think that looks pretty good right there. Let's change the color of this to maybe use somewhat full opacity. I want it to be kind of transparent actually. And some blue color, I think, light blue. Something like that looks pretty nice. And this is going to be the backdrop for our money amount. So this is going to be our cost amount. So this is going to be our cost BG. And then we can right click, go UI text, and this is going to be our cost or price or whatever you want to call it. And here we want to change our font to Roboto. I'm going to go with light. I then want to, of course, scale this to fit our cost BG. So let's go center here or click on the anchor presets here and go again, bottom right corner while holding down Alt. There we go. And then let's set the font size to say 21. That might be too much. And let's make this white so we can see. Let's try 18 there. And let's changing the text here. And let's also input, of course, our $sign. There we go. So this is a cost of 100. And right now we'll just hard code this in. You can of course add some functionality on the shop that references the object and sets this text variable to whatever the cost is. But I really think that that's unnecessary for now. We can just change this manually. So that is what we're going to do. So let's actually take these, or this element, let's delete the other one here and recreate that in a second. Let's take this element and scale it up to something like 130 by 130. And let's also, of course, take our shop here and scale that up as well so that the object won't be squished. And that definitely did something weird to our panel here. So let's just reformat that. Let's also make sure that our text snaps to the centers on X and Y. That makes it a bit easier to see how this will turn out. And I definitely want this text size to be larger. So let's try 21 there. And I think that is definitely better. And let's try and make this panel just a bit bigger and position it somewhere around there. And I actually really like the look of that. So I think we're going to go with that. And actually I want to position it maybe a tiny bit higher. Yeah, I am starting to be pretty satisfied with that. And then what we can do is we can duplicate this and change it to fit. Actually, let's hit apply on this first. So we can duplicate this and change it to fit our other turret as well. So we'll change the icon here to missile launcher. We'll change the function here to shop, select missile launcher. We'll change the preferred width and height. And this is actually where we might have forgotten to do something, and that is the panel here. We don't want that to stretch. We want that to be centered. So let's just edit that and apply that. And I think that should apply there as well. Yes, that is now centered. And now we can select our standard turret and change the preferred width and height to 110 because the icon is a bit larger here, but that should be fine to do. There we go. That looks great. And then of course change the cost amount to what we set it to, which I believe was to 50. Definitely was. There we go. And we can now rename this to our missile launcher item again. So now we have two nice looking buttons here where we can easily add more, where we have a price variable as well. And you can see that these should definitely work inside of the game. Cool. So we run out of money for these turrets. We only have 50 left. Awesome. So the next thing that we are going to look at, and that was a fast one definitely, is the build turret particles. And we are going to make those very quickly as well, but I definitely think that it will just add a little cool effect to the game. So whenever it comes to doing UI, I definitely recommend that you spend a lot of time making it as clear as possible what is happening. So whenever you place a turret, let's add some visual feedback other than the turret just appearing, that you just built that you just did something that was good. Also, what I recommend you do is add some kind of animation whenever we spend money that shows let's say you can just add a text that subtracts that amount of money on the screen and then floats away or fades away. That could be one thing to do. You could also add a sound effect. That's definitely a way, but having visual cues in there is good as well. We might add something later, and definitely when killing enemies, it's great to have some kind of visual feedback that is giving you some money back, which it currently isn't in our game, but that is to come. So where were we? A build turret particle effect. So let's actually just use down here the prefab's bullet impact effect as kind of a template. And let's rename this to build effect. And I think we'll just have a global one for all kinds of turrets. You can definitely create different ones for the different turrets. And let's drag that into the prefabs folder. And what I want to do here is I want to copy the particle system, remove it, and then I want to reset the transform on this build effect. And let's go out of 2D mode. And let's just drag it up a bit here so we can see it better. Let's then create a new empty game object on that with a reset transform. And this is going to be our particle system. So we'll go particle or particles. And then we can paste the component back in as new. And this will just allow us, when we change the shape here to hemisphere instead of sphere and bump up the radius, to then rotate this hemisphere without rotating the root or the anchor of a transform. So let's now rotate this by -90 on the X, and this will make sure that it will shoot upwards when we hit simulate. Cool. What we can then do, and the radius here, I just need that to be 1, I think, is set this to loop so we can definitely see what is going on a bit better. Let's also actually change, I think the emission is fine and the shape is fine now, but let's definitely change the gravity modifier to -1 so that it starts floating instead, which is pretty cool. In general, whenever something really positive happens, creating some kind of floating upwards effect is often used for level ups. It's used for when you successfully build stuff, positive spells, stuff like that. It creates some feeling of a nice, floaty, magical, yeah, it's rewarding is what I'm trying to say. So we can then disable the collision. I actually don't even know what these are called. The collision controls, the collision subparticle thing, I don't know. So we'll just disable collision. And what we can then do is create a new material here, and we'll just use the bullet impact again as a template. So this one is going to be our build effect. And I basically just want to take the albedo here and make it some kind of brighter blue. I think that will look pretty good. And then inside of our particles, we can go to the renderer and we can substitute that effect there, or that material. And I really like the look of that. That is definitely nice. And it's very visible in the scene. Then what we can do is we can maybe bump up the size on these. So let's change the size to something like 0.5 to 0.75. So we want them to start really large, but I definitely want a much quicker fallout on the size here. So let's just change the size curve to begin reducing right away here. So let's just use that curve right there. I think that looks really cool. And we can maybe just bump down the lifetime a tiny bit here to say 1.5. I think that looks a bit better. Yeah, I really like the look of that. And we can also maybe increase the speed a tiny bit. So let's do between 2 and 8. Cool. So something is really happening here. So I actually really like the look of this effect. So let's disable looping. Let's hit apply on the prefab here. Let's remove that prefab. Let's very quickly add this in code. So we simply go to our game master, we find our build manager, and wherever we build a turret on a node, we want to just add in a prefab that we will specify here. So this is going to be a public game object, and it's going to be our build effect. Whoops. My cat is stepping on the keyboard as always. So a build effect here, and we'll go down here and we'll instantiate that. So let's go instantiate, and we want to instantiate the build effect, and we want to instantiate it at node.get build position. And you could get that only once and then store it in a vector, or we could just get it twice, which which is what we're going to do. And then we can use quaternion, whoops, not quality level. We can use quaternion.identity to not rotate it at all, basically. And we can, of course, store it in a temporary variable so we can get rid of it again. So let's do that. Game object effect, and set that equal to the instantiated object. And we want to cast it into a game object. And then we can go destroy that, not debug. We want to destroy that effect after, say, 5 seconds, just to be on the safe side, to clean up the hierarchy afterwards. So now if we close that down and remember to actually reference our build effect under our prefabs here, so we have the build effect, and now everything should work. So if we hit play, we should see a cool looking effect here. So let's try and build something. And I definitely like the look of that. You could definitely also add more celebratory colors, have the particles be different colors, might be cool. And one thing that is really exciting is that the next version of Unity, Unity 5.5, comes with a lot more controls when it comes to doing random colors and all that kind of stuff. It really has a lot of new particle effects to play around with. So that is really exciting. If you're really excited about that, you can grab the 5.5 beta, which is public. So just wanted to mention that as well. And without further ado, I think that was pretty much all that I wanted to show for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. I also forgot to mention that I will be live streaming on Thursday the 29th, so if that is something you're interested in, definitely check it out. This is going to be the second Brackeys live stream, and this last one was just so much fun. So I definitely hope to see you there, and I will make sure to update on Facebook and Twitter, and maybe also upload a video right before we start to let you know. But just wanted to mention it so you can set time aside in your calendar. So follow me on those kind of things if you're interested, and I hope to see you there. Bye! Thank you so much to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in August, and a special thanks to Aaron Meta, Robert Roche, James Calhoun, Vixian P, and Andrew K.